Well, welcome to the 700 Club, and thanks for joining us. Despite U.S. military strikes, the Houthis in Yemen continue to launch missiles at Israel. Hezbollah is also on the offensive, firing rockets from southern Lebanon.
Well, in Jerusalem, Benjamin Netanyahu told an international conference that anti-Semitism is a global disease. He says it's carried by barbarians and threatens all civilized societies. CBN's Chris Mitchell reports.
Israelis ran for cover once again as the Houthis in Yemen launched 2 more missiles at Israel in the middle of the day on Thursday. Interceptors shot both of them down. The U.S. has been hitting the Houthis with air and missile strikes for 2 weeks now in an attempt to halt their attacks on Israel and global shipping passing through the Red Sea. President Trump says the Houthi attacks have killed many and disrupted international shipping, but the U.S. offensive is making an impact.
The attacks have been very successful, even beyond our wildest expectations. We've hit them very hard, very successfully, and we're going to do it for a long time.
The administration reportedly has sent another ceasefire proposal to Hamas, seeking the release of American hostage Edan Alexander and a breakthrough in ceasefire negotiations. But so far, no reply from the terror group. Meanwhile, the IDF is striking targets in southern Lebanon after 2 rockets were launched at Israel this morning. In Jerusalem, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu thanked those who came to an international anti-Semitism conference to stand against what he called barbarism.
I say barbarism because anti-Semitism is a disease carried by barbarians that threaten all civilized societies. These anti-Semites wish to destroy not only the Jewish state, they seek to destroy the forces of modernity in the Arab and Muslim world. They seek to drag it back to a primitive and violent medievalism.
Netanyahu warned the fires of anti-Semitism are spreading across the Western world.
They rage in Europe's capitals, in the Western press, in social media. They rage in America's elite universities.
A Turkish student at Massachusetts elite Tufts University has been arrested by ICE agents for alleged pro-Hamas activities. Secretary of State Marco Rubio explained why Rumeysa Öztürk's visa has been yanked, and others would be as well.
We gave you a visa to come and study and get a degree, not to become a social activist that tears up our university campuses. And if we've given you a visa and then you decide to do that, we're going to take it away. I encourage every country to do that.
With the 500% spike in anti-Semitic incidents on American campuses, Congress is stepping in to help fight it.
Universities have been put on notice. Failing to protect a student's civil rights will no longer be tolerated. If universities refuse to follow the law, to address discrimination on campuses, and to support Jewish students, then they should not expect the support of the federal taxpayer.
Senator Cassidy also announced a probe into the activities of the group American Muslims for Palestine on college campuses, claiming its leaders have ties to Hamas. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, this Senate investigation into American Muslims for Palestine is really significant. Let me give you some other names of supposed nonprofit groups that have been formed, and it all has interlinking executives involved in all of them. Students for Justice in Palestine, Islamic Association for Palestine, and the head of American Muslims for Palestine is a UC Berkeley lecturer. His name is Houthis Bazayan. The Attorney General of the state of Virginia, right after October 7th, subpoenaed American Muslims for Palestine, wanted to look at their records. And so far, they've delayed it. There's even a federal judge last summer that supported the subpoena and ordered them to produce their records. And it's just amazing to me that they're able to sort of slip through our justice system without disclosing who's really funding this. Students for Justice in Palestine is absolutely behind these student protests. And you see an echo of that organization in all of the campus occupations. So where's the money coming from is a very good question. What is the ideology behind this? And the allegation is they're an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, just like Hamas is an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood. So to have these nonprofit groups activity right here in the United States, fomenting dissent on our own college campuses, absolutely we need to follow the money. Where is this coming from? We also need to follow all of the influence Qatar has in the United States, and in some instances at the highest level of our government, and the amount of money being spent by Qatar for this influence in America is absolutely staggering. And the amount of money that they've given to various universities, again, absolutely staggering. Are we allowing this kind of propaganda to exist? It shouldn't have escaped anybody's notice that where in the world do these students have enough money to purchase all of these posters, you know, the matching tents? I mean, you look at it and it's obviously organized, it's obviously funded. And if that funding is from foreign sources, if that funding is from terrorist sources, then the U.S. government needs to pay real close attention to it. I keep hearing this is all in the name of free speech. Well, occupying universities, shutting down classes, chanting so loud no one can hear the lecture, making threats against the Jewish students, none of that is protected free speech. And it needs to be fully examined who's paying for it and why is it happening in such a broad way on our campuses, and the timing of it. Why is it happening literally within hours of the attack of October 7th? Those are very important questions. Let's make sure we get the answers. In other news, President Trump has withdrawn a key nomination to his administration. He's trying to maintain a balance of power in Congress. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
That's right, Gordon. The president pulled his nomination of New York Representative Elise Stefanik as ambassador to the United Nations. In a strategic move to protect the GOP's narrow House majority, the president explained his decision on Truth Social, declaring, quote, "It is essential that we maintain every Republican seat in Congress." The move avoids risking a special election in Stefanik's district where Democrats could flip the seat. By keeping a top Trump ally in the House, the president aims to solidify his party's leverage ahead of critical votes. Well, an update now on the January mid-air collision between an Army helicopter and commercial airliner right here in Washington, D.C. The FAA is ordering new safety measures after revealing the Black Hawk crew turned off an important piece of equipment. The crew reported visual contact moments before the collision, but they had the geo transmitter turned off. The system provides real-time altitude and speed data that could have alerted air traffic control that the chopper was too high. It's unclear why they turned the system off. In a Senate hearing Thursday, the Army said the crew didn't break any rules.
The crew, however, was approved to operate with that capability off in accordance with Army policy. The aircraft transponder, however, was active.
I find that shocking and deeply unacceptable. I am at a loss to come up with any justification for risking the lives of the traveling public with that decision.
The FAA is now requiring most aircraft activate the system when flying near Reagan National Airport. Well, working with leaders in Latin America to shore up support for Trump administration policies on immigration, crime, and deportation, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem wraps up a three-day nation tour in Mexico. She began in El Salvador Wednesday, visiting the prison holding accused Venezuelan gang members deported from the U.S. last week. She signed a biometric data sharing agreement with Colombia's foreign minister yesterday. The measure aims to disrupt illegal activity in the region, including human trafficking. Well, the United States has designated 8 Latin American drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. Left off that list, however, is Colombia's FARC, a group that's turned the country into a war zone. Chuck Holton reports from Cúcuta.
It's a conflict most Americans know nothing about. Bombings, shootings, and clashes between guerrilla groups have turned Colombia into a battleground. The violence has left thousands homeless. Juan Galan's father was assassinated while running for office in the 1980s. Now he's entered politics, calling for a tougher stance on the cartels.
The current president, Gustavo Petro, set up a policy which is called Total Peace. And it's trying to build peace accords with every criminal organization in Colombia that mainly are supported by narcotraffic, the cocaine traffic. Also with the armed forces having debilitated their capacities.
These guerrilla groups control Colombia's cocaine trade, which supplies the U.S. drug market. Now that the Trump administration has cut off aid, Colombia's government is struggling to stop them. For years, the U.S. provided Black Hawk helicopters to help combat drug trafficking. And today, most sit idle. The freeze on U.S. aid has left the country's security forces without air support to fight these groups.
So a major war has erupted, leading to 26,000 people being displaced to our city. The fighting is still ongoing, and the National Army is trying to regain control of the area, but so far, without success.
About a third of all of the overdose deaths in the United States come from cocaine, not fentanyl, and the vast majority of the cocaine comes from here in Colombia. Now, that's controlled by one of two organizations, the FARC or the ELN, and those two organizations are being facilitated by the Venezuelan government right across the border here from me here in Cúcuta. The Trump administration has designated 8 cartels across Latin America as foreign terrorist organizations. But what the people here who are being pushed out of their homes are saying is that the Trump administration needs to focus more on the government of Nicolas Maduro.
There were bombs, gunfire, destruction everywhere. We had to leave because of the fighting between the FARC and ELN. The people with guns control everything, and we who work the land have to flee to survive.
This pile of rubble behind me is all that's left of a police station, if you can believe that. Just a couple nights ago, a car bomb went off right where I'm standing and leveled the entire building. Fortunately, it was late at night and nobody was inside. But this is the kind of violence we're seeing in this area, and this is the reason why people are fleeing their homes. Despite the Trump administration's cartel crackdown, many in Colombia question why the Biden administration removed the FARC from the terror list in 2021, especially as it continues to dominate the drug trade.
We need helicopters, and we need the cooperation and intelligence also, which is crucial. And now that President Trump has declared terrorists the narco-traffickers, total peace policy is going to fail. But with the decision of Trump, it has already an additional blow.
I think the most important thing is to have God's guidance in all of this. Every morning, we put our work in God's hands, and I believe that's why things have gone well so far.
While Colombia faces its worst security crisis in years, the U.S. terror designation of drug cartels may be just the first step. Until these groups are fully crushed, the crisis and the drugs will continue to spread. From Cúcuta, Colombia, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Thank you, Chuck. Gordon, back over to you.
Well, it just seems to be an endless war in Colombia. You look at this, and I'm reminded of just the horrible bombings and everything the cartels did in Colombia back in the 1980s. And to see it still happening and being supported out of Venezuela, and then obvious confusion coming out of the United States. Are we helping you? Are we funding the fight? Are we withdrawing from that fight? Is FARC on the terror list, off the terror list? What is it, and what is our policy? In that confusion, this kind of thing will absolutely grow and fester, and it just is horrible for the people there. Prayer works, and there was a point in time where prayer really worked to stop the cartels, and there was a period of peace. And I remember the big stadium events, and people were praying and weeping over their country, and it changed. Let's get back to that. Righteousness always exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach, and everywhere you look with this, the corruption, the drug trade, the weapons, the violence, the bombings. Sin is a reproach, and we're seeing that full bore in Colombia. Let's pray and let's ask God to heal that land.